The journey always begins somewhere. It can start from weakness, from aspiration, and even conquest. It can lead to amazing places with opportunities that define you. And that journey can bring you full circle, rekindle past dreams, and surround you with amazing people with incredible stories of inspiration. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Inspirational 30. I'm your host, Jim Gardiner, and this is the show where I get to sit down with some amazing people from all walks of life. And we're really here for the viewer at home and for myself to make us all a better version of ourselves today than we were yesterday. Today's guest really exemplifies what this show is about and the journey I think that we all go through in life. Some obviously we all have our different stories, but we all go on a journey. Today's guest is in his 40s, and it took him his entire life to really find his true calling in life. After a life of bad choices, regrets, substance abuse, he's finally found some clarity and some wellness in his life, and he's never been happier. He's taken the world by the storm. It's my privilege to welcome Stephen Pilcher to the show, my good friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks, Jim. How are you doing?
Fantastic, man.
I'm honored to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we've been chatting for a while.
Indeed.
And after that intro, I mean, life is good now, man, huh?
It's definitely better than it ever has been, for sure. Yeah, definitely have made some good choices, I think, moving forward.
And what do you attribute those choices to? I mean, is it just timing? Is it just you had enough of the old you know?
I'd say that's really what it boils down to, is I just had enough of the old me. I wanted to change the picture, turn the channel, as some would say, yep. You know, and try and come at things at a different angle and see where it can really take me. And so far, it's been an amazing ride, and I'm just going to continue with my path.
No getting off the life train now, right?
Not so much, no.
No, good stuff. So let's take our viewers back, because you have an amazing story. You have so many chapters that we can't get into. It's mind-boggling. But let's take the journey, because I think it's a cool journey to see where you are now from where you went. Family life started off years ago.
Yeah, I started off from Ontario originally, and just really had a bit of a struggle, I guess. With my family getting split up when I was quite young. And so it just really put a bit of a challenge on me, I guess, as to sort of finding my path. And
so you said, your family split up. So you have a brother.
I do.
And so you had you have a mom and dad.
Yep.
Right? And so it was the four of you?
It was the four of us initially.
So what happened? Something happened when you were 3, or it transpired. You were very young, weren't you?
Yeah, well, my parents split up when I was about 3.
Okay.
And so, my brother was 1.5. And so my mom, was taking on both of us and on herself. And it was a bit of a struggle for her, because we were pretty rambunctious and got in each other's way a lot. So, but always he was my rock too. So
your brother was your rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we did spend a lot of time together at that age.
So your dad left.
My dad left.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. He moved out to Alberta.
And was there any blame at that age? Did you feel like you were part of that cause and effect, or was it?
At the time, I didn't really feel that, because I was so young.
Yeah.
I don't even really remember living with both my parents at that point. It wasn't until later, in life, when I, ended up spending more time with my dad. We did go out and visit with him in the summertime, but we were pretty separated.
So you had said, you touched on earlier that your brother was your rock, and that rock was severed at some point, right?
Yeah, it was severed when I was about 8. I was pretty much, my brother and I guess, were at each other quite a bit. My mom was having a nervous breakdown, or was feeling like she was going to, and her and my grandma kind of got together and figured out a plan, And the plan was that I would move out with my dad. And, you know, at that point, we got separated. And it was just, moving into a whole different situation for me. So
what was that like? What was the relationship with your dad? What was that upbringing? Because obviously that, you and I know, I want you to share it with the viewers though, that kind of paved the way for some of the issues that you had, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, basically, you know, when I did move out there, he was with a lady at the time, which is was a half mother at the time, who's the mother of my sister, and but they were having their own issues, and you know, after I was there for about a year and a half or so, they split up, and so it was kind of, I wasn't sure at that point in my life because I was so young still, but I started blaming myself for his relationship issues and thinking that maybe I was the third wheel or something, or that I was causing these mishaps in his relationships. So I blamed myself a lot for that, and it was really hard on me. It's also felt a bit of abandonment from my mom's side because, you know, at this point in my life, I'm just uprooted and moved out there. So
was there now your dad? Was there substance abuse on his part? Was he drinking and all that stuff as well back then?
Yes, he was drinking fairly well. It was a pretty big problem. Where it was becoming part of the relationship issues was, you know, the abuse mentally and physically. I tended to try and protect the woman in the situation, and you know, there was times where I got in between them, and in verbal fights and physical fights, and it didn't bode well for me as well. So as that relationship grew, and you're starting to have all these struggles and these kind of internal conflicts, is that when the wild child started to kind of evolve in you a little bit? I think that's pretty much, when that all started happening.
So give us that little taste. Give the audience a little taste of your rebelliousness.
Well, I really was reaching out to try and get attention. Now looking back, you know, at the time I didn't really think that was the point, but I was doing a lot of stupid things. I was, trying to fit into different crowds that I felt may be the way to go, which I learned later that it wasn't the right way to go. Started smoking cigarettes, when I was 14, 15, and just trying to sort of fit in, right? And tried a bit of weed back then as well.
At that time too?
I had a couple here and there at that age, but I wasn't really drinking specifically. Okay. Went to a few get-togethers or parties with friends that their parents were okay with us drinking, but we'd get locked in the house, Sure. Can't leave, sort of thing.
Under lock and key.
Yeah.
But at some point, you kind of had enough where you left the house, right?
Yep. Yeah, the abuse and things that were going on was really starting to take its toll on me. I just didn't feel like I was a fit anymore and wanted to leave. So I actually quit school at grade 9, left home at 15, and started to figure out my life. It was a tough go.
And so you went into a couple different group homes, correct?
I was in and out of group homes before that because I'd run away from home several times, and my dad really had no idea what to do with me. So he put me in group homes. I ended up living in a shelter at one point as well. The group homes, I think, were kind of inspirational, I guess, for me. Where I saw sort of kids that were even worse off than me. And specifically the last one I was at, which was a wilderness group home, it really showed me a sense of sort of the level of my interest in the outdoors, where we were always, planning different trips to go on, hiking trips or canoe trips, and the kids would actually organize the trip itself and do all the planning, and, facilitators were there to be guidance sort of thing. So.
And now when you were I know at one point you mentioned you fell in with some less than desirable characters, let's say.
Yes.
And that culminated in your journey out here, you could say. Indeed. Yeah. So give us kind of just a little rundown on that.
Well, yeah, I was, when I was living on my own, it's hard to simplify it, but I was living with some felons. I didn't know at the time, but they were out doing B&Es and doing all kinds of stuff in the neighborhood that wasn't necessarily a good idea. And I was there as an accomplice. They got busted one day by the cops, and they had, one of them came downstairs and pointed a gun at me and said, make sure don't go anywhere. And it was pretty intimidating and pretty scary. And at that point, I realized that wasn't for me and had to move on. So.
And did the cops tell you to kind of get out of town, maybe?
Yeah,
like
they did.
As kind of a safety measure, not like get out of town, but more of a...
No, they told me, just the guys that I was hanging out with, they may have some things happen from me telling the cops pretty much everything that was going on. So they told me I better get out of town before anything gets any worse. So for me.
All right, so you got out of town, you came to Vancouver.
I came to Vancouver.
And I love this part of the story. Where did we end up?
I actually lived in North Van. Yep. I went out to North Van. I didn't know anybody here. I actually was working in the fair at the time and came out with the show and it was cooking. But I lived in North Van in a tent. Actually, it was a hammock in the wintertime. Lived up there for about a month, just trying to make a go. And yeah, it was pretty cold. Got snowed on a lot. So
you were literally living outside.
Kind of homeless, living outside.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how I got started here. I was 18. Wow. Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So at 18, your drinking started to evolve.
Yes.
More and more over time, right? And so more and more over time, you started to follow in the footsteps of your dad, you would say?
I was in denial about that, but yes, that's essentially what was happening, was that I was, following the same path he was. It just wasn't healthy for me, for sure.
Yeah, you had that one moment you told me where you were outside the lawn during an altercation with your dad. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, and, at that point, I didn't really, I said to him, like, I never want to grow up like you. That was the last point I had at home, basically. That was sort of the last straw for me. And it was pretty paramount.
Yet that pull was there because you were growing up like him.
Yeah.
And continued to evolve like him.
That's right.
Right? But I mean, obviously there's always a bright side. I mean, you did have a heart-to-heart with your dad in your mid-20s?
Yeah, when I was around 25, I went down and talked to him. He's living in Texas, and I was pretty much ready to let go of him as my dad. Just had to tell him how I was feeling about everything because it was eating at me, and I couldn't continue living my life the way I was. So I had to tell him, how I felt. And to my surprise, he accepted it. I didn't lose my father over it. And I think, at that point, he made a turning point in his life where he started sort of rethinking, I think, everything that had gone on. And that started him on his new journey as well.
And so you really were the catalyst for him going to AA, weren't you?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah. There was, it was something that he knew, I think he needed to do. He just was also in denial about it maybe too. And
so how many years has he been sober now?
I think it's been almost 25 now.
Wow.
And he's made a heck of a difference in his life.
Amazing. Good for you,
I'm
man. I mean, that's great, right? Of course, it took you another 20-some years to...
It took me about the same point in my life as it did in his, because he was in his 40-ish as well, right? So.
I know. So let's... I mean, again, we have so much to go over, but I want to get into what we're doing now with the new you. But, as you went into your 20s. You found your first kind of maybe love, which was biking.
Yes.
And so that started to sprinkle in some of that wellness, physical activity, self-worth, accountability, all those things, right? And you did quite well with it.
I did, yeah. Yeah, it was like you say, it was a kickstart for me to get, really get my hands and feet into the physical activity. I'd always been active, outdoorsy wise, but hadn't really focused on anything specifically. I'd done a lot of sports in the past, but cycling has always been a catalyst for me to my own well-being. It's a place where I like to meditate. I don't know how I can when I'm riding, but it's like I just have to zone out, and brings a lot of peace to my mind. So.
And I see you brought a couple of a little hardware.
Yeah. I actually I got a couple of gold medals here that I did. This one's back in 2004 from BC Cup level racing, cross country racing, and then I also got one with the BC Championships for a downhill race in Whistler. And that was kind of a stepping stone for me. I was fully sponsored at the time by the company I was working for, and it really fed my need to do this. So. And
I mean, but we should make a point that you were doing this, and it wasn't like all of a sudden you were healthy, clean, and living a athletic lifestyle.
No, I mean, ironically, I grew up with asthma, so that was always a hurdle for me. I was smoking cigarettes while I was racing. I don't know how I managed to get these medals, but somehow I think I must have just been racing on anaerobic level the whole time. But it really started to make me think about my life and sort of why am I doing these things, and had an issue with the drinking and the smoking, and trying to figure out a way to get rid of that in my life so that I could, be a lot healthier.
Sure. And so, I mean, that was a consistent struggle. So, the biking was going good, but you still had these demons in the closet, for sure, right? And those demons surfaced again when you got married.
Yep.
You had a child.
Yes.
Lovely daughter.
Totally. Yeah, it was a continuous sort of evolution of that, through my life, through my 20s into my 30s, where it really hindered a lot of things I did sometimes. It kind of possibly may have led to the demise of my relationship too, with my ex, and my daughter's mother. But it's all for good. It's all for a reason, right? Everything happens for a reason. I believe that truly, and it, I guess, was what led me to
what had to happen.
See what I had to do for myself. I had a daughter now, and she's an amazing kid, and I didn't want to see her grow up like I did with that abuse, with that in her life as much.
So let's celebrate now. I mean, let's talk about this new life. You're 40, what? How old are you?
45.
Okay.
Yep.
So
actually 46, pardon me. Yep.
46.
Yep.
You've been clean now, use the term clean, like you're living a clean lifestyle for almost a year?
Yes. Yeah.
And you probably attribute that to one person, maybe?
Well, I definitely attribute that to my current fiance, Paula. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's really made a huge difference in my life. I'm very grateful for us meeting. Met her through business, ironically on LinkedIn. I guess that's a new dating site, I don't know, but yeah, it's been amazing, it's been an amazing journey with her so far.
Great. So now how have you turned this newfound kind of seeing the world through a binocular of wellness, if you will, how have you turned that to work for you, but also incorporate it into what you're doing for business?
Well, I guess it really just kind of helped outline sort of the structure of the wellness and the mindset and how that all plays into how you are as a person. My health was always something I wanted to improve, and learning about, being more of a plant-based diet has really helped me slim down a lot, but also feel amazing. I didn't really realize that, some of the things I was putting in my body weren't always that good for me, and, the impact that it was having. So, at one point I was kind of embarrassed bending over to tie my shoes up, and I was out of breath, and I was like, maybe there's something I'm doing that I need to stop. So, the diet really changed quite a bit. And, just everything from a holistic point of view. I've really taken on working on my mindset, keeping myself healthy, being accountable to myself and others as far as, what I want to do in my life. And it's led me to, be running my own business now. In the health and wellness field.
Let's talk about that business real quick. What's it called?
It's called Earth Savvy Sales and Marketing.
Okay.
My fiance Paula and I started that last year, where she had come from that background, and we had met the owner. Well, she knew the owner of one of the companies we work with, and he'd always been looking for someone to represent his products here on the island. So that's who we got started with.
I see. And these are all Earth Savvy, so obviously that rings a bell. So they're all products that promote
health, promote safe in the environment.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
and are good for us, healthy products, right? So, and that are locally made, that are wanting to make a difference in the world too. So
all BC products then?
Pretty much everything's BC right now. We're kind of expanding, looking across the rest of the country as well at other things, but.
Give us an idea real quick of profile of what do you have for some products, like different profiles, like.
Well, I have like protein bars that are unique. They have a pumpkin seed protein in them from Power Plant. So there's quite a range of products that they have. Everything we have is pretty much all plant-based. So and chemical free. Good for the environment. So we've got another company that does plant-based soaps that are highly concentrated from Vancouver. Live for Tomorrow.
Okay.
We've got Back to Earth with natural arnica muscle rub, pain begone, and they have a weeds and seeds too, which is a way to get your minerals in a plant source.
So it's just really holistic.
Lots of
items, again, for the betterment of us and the betterment of the earth, really is what it comes down to.
Exactly.
Great. We are getting close to wrapping up here, but what are some, just give me an idea, do you have a couple of key figures in your life that have helped you transform at all?
Well, I have my fiance Paula for sure. My daughter as well. She's
Nice.
A big part of that because I want to be the best I can be for her. She's turned into a straight A student. I don't know how she did that because it certainly wasn't my thing when I was a kid. But she's a big part of that.
Awesome.
And just I've met a lot of great mentors along the way, including yourself. That just really help bring back the reinforcement as to that I'm doing the right thing, and as the more I do what I'm doing, the more I'm attracting this kind of mentality and lifestyle into my life. And
it's that vibration, man. Totally.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Well, what I want to do, I'd like to end with kind of 5 candid questions for you.
Sure.
Just comes to the top of your head. All right. What has life taught you so far?
Doesn't have to be a struggle. That just living every day to be grateful and not beat yourself up over the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
What's the one word that describes you best?
Joyful. Yeah.
What's the one thing you wish your parents told you?
That's a tough one. I guess just to be kind to yourself more than anything. I didn't really get that a lot when I was younger, and it was really difficult to see through the smoke, I guess. But yeah, I wish I'd have gotten a little more on that guidance, I guess. So.
Most impactful decision in your life?
Taking my health into my own hands and really seeing what I can do with it. I think that's been my biggest one. Just, I've never felt better.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Last question. If you have grandkids one day, how would you want them years from now to see a picture of you and think of you?
Well, first of all, I can't think of having grandkids yet because my daughter's only 16, but she tells me it's going to be a while, so that's good. I don't know, I guess just that they remember me as being a positive, outgoing, happy kind of guy. Joyful, yeah.
Amazing. Well, I love you, man. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, man.
It's an honor.
To our viewers, thanks for joining us this episode. I think Steve is just a true beacon of it's never too late to make a change. Being hardwired a certain way doesn't mean you can't reprogram. And I think he's shown that surrounding yourself with like-minded people is arguably the first step. Having people that are there to lean on, that support you, give you guidance, I think is huge. I think we all should be joyful. I think that's a very profound word. It's not easy to be joyful in this rat race of day to day, but that's only if you let it make you that way, right?
Yep.
And so what we're doing is, exactly, it's a choice. So it's a state of being. We just talked a minute ago about reprogramming. Well, reprogram those thoughts, live life to its fullest. It's never too late to change. And as Stephen would say, getting healthy trumps everything. You get healthy, it sets you up, and that's the foundation. And from that, you have the energy to go after your dreams. You have the energy to live life to its fullest and to love. And with that, we'll see you soon. Stay tuned and stay inspired. Thanks. Nice job, man.
Thanks, you too.